Good evening, everyone, and welcome. My name is Kyla Hanington, and I'm the Public Outreach and Engagement Division Manager for the Prince George's County Office of Human Rights, the county's civil and human rights education and enforcement agency. I'm excited to be with you for another one of our Elephant We Don't See diversity dialogues with our friends, the Prince George's County Memorial Library System. The Elephant We Don't See started as a partnership series between our two agencies and really between Michelle Hamiel, the library's chief operating officer for public services, and myself nearly 2.5 years ago. Throughout the series, Michelle and I tackled some challenging books and some challenging conversations. For me, both professionally and personally, those conversations with Michelle were highlights of each month. Michelle recently departed PGC MLS for a wonderful position with the Urban Libraries Council, where I know they are benefiting from her wisdom, her insight, and her friendship as we did here. But I miss her partnership, and I thank her for all the learning and the laughter. Michelle, buddy, I wish you the best. So tonight, we are in conversation about Arshay Cooper's A Most Beautiful Thing, and I'm joined tonight by three special guest co-hosts. One, Jose Villegas. Some of you may remember from the spring when he joined Michelle and I for several of our conversations. Jose is the assistant director of the Office of Human Rights, where he is also the manager of the investigations unit. And also from the Office of Human Rights, we welcome Executive Director Renee Battlebrooks. Prior to joining OHR in December 2018, she was a prosecutor with the Prince George's County State's Attorney's Office for 19 years after serving as a public defender for 8 years. And lastly, representing our partners and our friends, the Prince George's County Memorial Library System, we're absolutely thrilled to welcome Amy Jenkins. She serves as a librarian 3 at the Upper Marlborough Branch Library. She has a mom who encouraged her as a child to read and to check out as many books as she could carry. She was hired as a page at the New Carlton Library at age 16 and has been employed by the Prince George's County Memorial Library System for 17 years. When her nose is not in a good book, she enjoys being in nature and she likes art. So welcome all of you.
And thank you, Kyla. Thank you. Well, this book, A Most Beautiful Thing, was a really, really good book. The True Story of America's First All-Black High School Rowing Team by Arshay Cooper. So, fellow moderators and book people, who wants to be first to say what you thought, or maybe to give an overview of the book?
I would say I was really inspired by this book. It kind of reminded me of several books. When we had books like The Pact, that was talking about four friends that motivated each other to succeed and go through medical school. It was really inspiring for a group of young people to discover a sport that they knew nothing about and to be overcoming obstacles, and how this book had an impact, or how the sport had an impact on their future life. So it was a very uplifting read to see the young people overcome their obstacles in most cases.
Yeah, that is great, Jose.
One thing that one thing I have to agree with you, Amy. I think it was very. I liked the book. I think the story was, to me personally, was just to learn how some people have some challenges in their life and how they overcame some of the things that happened to. I mean, the environment where they were in how sport, something that that somebody was able to provide the funds and the support for the kids, how that helped them in their life. It was a good book, how to see, like I said, the environment, the changes of the family dynamic at the beginning, how the mother changed, and how they cope with that, with she coming back, in even though they were doing something that can help their life and participate in the sport. They also had challenges in the personal life, personal friends, being killed, still being in the same environment, but trying to do something else to become some, to progress in life, I guess, in a way. So it was very, very interesting book read to me. And I actually enjoyed. I even enjoyed the documentary that I watched after this book. So it was really good.
Okay, really, Jose, you watched it after.
I was going to call him out for that too.
I haven't watched the documentary yet because I didn't want to cheat. I wanted to read the I agree with Amy. I'm just playing with you, Jose. I agree with Amy that the way it was written was so good. It was so easy to read on such a something that can be really difficult to read. And I was struck. It just kind of reminded me about how much I think some of us take for granted, just being able to go to school without any major traumas, major challenges, just literally on the journey there. Like, do you ride the train versus walking? Because walking, you're going to encounter different gangs, different crews, like things that a lot of us would never even think of. So I just started sort of imagining what that looks like when you get to school and how can you even be in the headspace to receive, to learn, to engage when school is still sort of a microcosm of that. So it was humbling, and it was such an amazing read just to see like, what others have overcome when we don't have that same walk, and how ungrateful we are for some of the things we take for granted, just basic safety, basic food, some of these things. But anyway, what did you guys think?
Well,
Even,
Renee, I'm sorry, Jose, go ahead.
Go ahead, Amy.
No, I was just going to say it presents a setting which is not my familiar setting as well. Coming from being a native Prince Georgian and attending private school, I never had, a public school experience. And living in the suburbs, I haven't had an inner city experience. So it's bringing kind of a spotlight on a different setting, a different living situation that was foreign to me otherwise.
Yeah, and I guess it's me, but one of the things I think Ms. Barbara you mentioned is that even at the beginning, the first chapter, he talked about when he was going to the school, and then most of the students were late to class because they have to go to a metal detector, right? But that's the same thing. Like, I mean, I went to public schools here in Prince George's, but you never. In my case, I never experienced that. I mean, that I'm happy, I guess, in the way that the high school was a couple blocks away from the house, but I didn't have to go through multiple neighborhoods or in order to get to a high school. And then when I got to the high school, I wasn't required to go to metal detector in order to go to the high school. That just learning how young kids go through their life. I mean, even in their own neighborhood, they have to be mindful of whether there's a shooting, whether they have, whether they're safe, and even in the place that you think is safe, like school, is not actually safe, because he's seen people or the security personnel confiscated guns, knives, and other weapons. So it's not even in school you're kind of safe.
Yeah. Oh, Renee. Okay. So for those of you watching at home, in case it seems a little different, there are 4 of us, so it is a little bit of like the guesswork about who's going to talk over top of each other, which could be fun because it could, bring a little additional element of chaos to the evening. So I did. I found this book, and I did talk to Renee a little bit before we started, where, thanks to Michelle and also the work that we do at the Office of Human Rights, I have had the opportunity to read a lot of books that have a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different experiences, and including other books that I've read that were written by people who had grown up in pretty difficult or pretty rough circumstances or pretty rough neighborhoods. And I was impacted with this one. There was something about the way that he told the story, and there's so many different families and friends and teammates where their individual stories are brought out. So not just Mr. Cooper's, but the whole world in which he was living. It was so well wrought that it impacted me, I think, or that I was more able to just really get the God, I don't even know how to describe this, but just the incredible burden, the incredible amount there is to come through to have the life that you dream of for yourself. And one of the things he talks about here is that, providing people with jobs that make a decent salary is, people want, we need this opportunity, and that the striving to make life decent and honorable and warm for yourself and for your family, and the odds that it takes to get through. And also, I felt like offering solutions and ideas and answers for some of these major, major problems that we struggle with, I think, in America today.
Yeah, something you said, Kyla, just now about dreams, and I thought that was such an important theme that Mr. Cooper talked about, because not everybody is able to dream when you're in a survival environment. And really that's what struck me, that this environment, it's survival from the get-go, right? It's, again, it kind of circles back to what I was saying about just things that just small things that we take for granted that are not small when I walk in the shoes of Mr. Cooper. And so dreams are a luxury, right? Thinking about what you want, if you're thinking about survival, if you're thinking about just making it to the next day, thinking about eating, getting home safe, getting to school safe, your siblings, your mom, your dad, all of these things, what are you going to eat? All of those things. And just, at such a young age, the hope was jumping off a bridge, right? Kind of how he starts. And then I will say that one thing that this book really drove home was really teaching all of us to guard against being judgmental, right? That judgment, when it's so easy for us to say, oh, Preston, right? But he makes Preston come alive, and to show that what is clear cut for some that haven't walked in those shoes is not. And I reflected on when I spent time as a public defender, and it was one of the most amazing jobs that I had. And, how I was invited into the lives of people. Like, you have to really, earn that trust. But that was the first time that it struck me that decisions that we make are not always clear cut, black and white, right? For those of us who maybe don't grow up in an environment where it's not the same. So for those that haven't read it, and I encourage, I'm doing my commercial, read it, get it, buy it, borrow it from the library. Exactly. A most beautiful thing. That for the Preston in this case, right? A good kid wanting to row, took part in rowing, but when it came time to make a decision about eating for his family or being the person to take care of his family, I'm not going to give it away, that his choices that he made affected his life. And there were collateral consequences, but in the epilogue, he's turned that into something that he can share with others, right? But again, back to being judgmental. it's easy when you come from a place where you don't have to walk that. But what did you guys think about that?
I'll go. First of all, I have to say hi to Susan. Susan Roberts is one of our like absolute favorite OHR PGCL. We're not supposed to have favorites, but also we love seeing you, Susan. Thanks for being here. So I think that's maybe what impacted me too, is like, and I think about the places that I've been and the opportunities I've had in my life, and they've been pretty, I have felt that they were pretty wide ranging. And I also know, to your point, Renee, of the book driving home the point about not being judgmental, is like, I am also like still one of the things that I struggle with, and part of what we talk about in the diversity dialogue is I am judgmental. Like I do struggle, and I will get a snapshot of somebody at some point in their life, some image. And I think that that's the whole story, right? Like somebody doing, you know, especially if you see somebody in the news and it's something bad, truthfully, instead of me being like, wow, that person had a bad 5 minutes or is having a bad time, I will think that is a bad person. You know, I will have a global response to a story. And and I think I love your point, and specifically talking about Preston. And I know there's lots of stories in this book, and I agree with Renee. I don't want to say too much, but it is, you just gotta dive into it. But to really be like, these are not like, and if the people in the book are not bad people, which they're not, what does that mean about the people that I read about on the news, or that I come across in this difficult moment in their life, or this time of crisis, or even a difficult life in which maybe they're engaged in different behaviors than my life has luxuriously allowed me to avoid. You know, how do I try to remind myself to see them as full people instead of as a sort of caricature of something bad?
Hi, Kyla. I think what I would say in regards to that is that we need to take more than just a brief snapshot of a person. And it's so quick and easy to do that, but I think we need to take time to absorb a little bit more. So that we don't become as rash, because I too am a flawed human being and make those same kind of judgments. But I think we just need to absorb a little bit more, to be a little bit more open-minded and kind, and realize, you know, that we all we're all complicated individuals with such a varied backgrounds, to understand the complexities of what it is to be human. And everybody has totally different experiences and combinations that they present to society at any given moment or any given day.
I think it's sometimes difficult for us, some members of this society, to relate to people, right? Because either we don't know the story that they're going through, we don't know their life, so we make a judgment based on what we see in society and what we see in the news, but because everybody, and I don't think nobody can say, oh, I don't do those type of judgment. I have to admit, I do make those judgments, and I don't know what that person or they're going through. Like, I'm going to relate it to what's going on now currently in the area. You know, there's an increase of juvenile delinquency, right? And so it's cross jurisdiction in the area, but we don't really know why that is happening. But if you read this book, you can try to kind of, relate some of the probably what's going on now with what Mr. Cooper and friends went through back when they were younger in the 80s, 90s. Is that there's the structural issue that's going on in society, right? That is preventing or not providing the access to some people to get what other people are able to even in the same jurisdiction. Like in this case for him, he I think Ms. Brooks, you mentioned this. Why he started in this rowing team? Why? I mean, one of the things was he wanted. They were talking about eating pizza, right? They were offering food, and so and so those things in society that we don't know what's going on with people, but we make a judgment based on what we know, what we hear, and what we hear in the news. So it's kind of it's interesting. If you read this book, you could tie it to what's going on, potentially is going on in society now. That is hasn't been a lot of changes, but doesn't, in my view, in terms of the judgment that we make.
Yeah, and I think there is a difference between making judgments and being judgmental, right? It's nuanced, but I think there is. I mean, we all have to make judgments, that meaning decisions, and we base it on. But yeah, the other thing that struck me was, how do you keep your dignity and hope and your spirit intact when everything and everyone is literally pushing you down, right? Whether it's the police encounters. I was struck by, we know it happens all the time. It's happened to me, but probably not to the level ever that it, at least one of the snapshots, right? The encounters with at the regattas or the different meets for racing, not the school system, because Mr. Cooper paints a picture of, the teachers also being traumatized, but that they were dedicated and serving as, the teacher and the counselor and the social worker and the therapist and all of these things in one space, juggling and just trying to get the students from point A to B. But I was struck by how his spirit in particular was not extinguished, was not snuffed out, and about where he went to get his. He was a self-starter, so at an early age, when he didn't have those role models or that positive influence to guide, where he found his guidance, right, in TV. Remarkable to me, absolutely remarkable. And so I'm sort of reflecting when I look through sort of the social justice lens and equity and how we have failed, right? But in spite of all of that, he, even before the rowing, was focused, and where he got, how his spirit again wasn't snuffed out. He, by every rights, it should have been, right? He should have been not able to succeed or graduate, right? But so somebody share or talk to me about that. It's just interesting to me.
Could it be probably? I mean, he talked about what his mother went through. That she was in drugs before, and I guess she was in prison. So the separation. He talked about his brother. That he was outside the house. So probably maybe seeing that kind of push him to just not have that flame, like you mentioned, extinguish the desire to do something in life, right? And another things that he mentioned is just how the things that he have seen and even in his neighborhood, right? The shootings, all the stuff. I think probably that was one of the things that pushed him to just not fall in that path. What he saw made him kind of stay away from the same outcome, the same path that he was looking.
Well, I agree with what you said, Jose, but also, to have such intrinsic motivation to rise above his circumstances. And even, as his mother dealt with her situation, and was at that point such a strong influence to want to her son to have different opportunities. And I think the key word is opportunity. You know, when when we actually talk about rowing program coming into school, we talk about children, you know, like they say, who are familiar with basketball and they're familiar with football. But to talk about rowing is talking about a Martian on another planet. They don't know what it is, and are tickled with curiosity, some of them at first, and definitely with Arshay, of trying to have this kind of opportunity. And this kind of relates to something I just saw in the newspaper or on the TV yesterday. I think I verified tonight on the Philadelphia Tribune, was talking about a man named Thornell Jones, who was an 84-year-old young man who gave scholarships to some Black youth so that they could be part of the Eastport Yacht Club in Annapolis, that they could participate in like a yacht and boating, so they can have those experiences. That Mr. Thornell Jones himself is the only Black member of the Eastport Yacht Club. And I'm like, this is amazing, that in the sense that this is relating directly to provide this kind of opportunity. Because if we think about what is available, we think that a lot of times with crew and yachting, it deals with usually white, usually wealthy people that are able to participate, and anybody who doesn't fall in that category is, feels, excluded in this kind of situation. So it's providing this opportunity, what is that jumping point for children and for people in general to be given choice.
I was really struck by how little it took, actually. And I'm not saying it wasn't massive, but stay with me. People who have read the book are like, what are you talking about, Kyla? But stay with me. That how much there was the image. So Mr. Cooper's mom sobers up, becomes clean, goes to church, encourages others. And throughout the story, you see it was one person, right? How many people were impacted by her choice throughout the family and the neighborhood and things like that. And there's a part actually here, and I normally I write all over these and it's all crazy, but I'm trying to do better, because I know it upsets my library friends when they see my books. So here, but the other thing is, then you have the coach, or the funder, I guess is maybe a better way to put him. So I'm going to read two paragraphs, but the first one's a lead into the second one, which is the money paragraph. I'm grateful to Ken for making all this happen and starting a program that will challenge us. I faced a fear of water, and now life is a little less scary. He is a special kind of human being. We respond differently to him than we do to anyone else. We are so used to people we encounter talking at us, nagging us, yelling at us without knowing anything about us. They tell us to do things, but don't want to take the time to get to know us. Ken always talks with us. He spends time with us, learns our jokes, our ways, our inner strengths and weaknesses. Ken uses his time, talent, and treasure to get to know us. It's like a bank account. You have nothing to withdraw if you don't make a deposit. A lot of times, teachers and parents just want to withdraw from us. They want to know our problems, secrets, and the things that are going on in our lives. They wonder why we never tell them anything. And the reason is because they've never made any deposits. Ken is excellent at making trust and faith deposits in our lives. And so, first of all, I love that. I think it's a lesson to all of us. But I think about for all of us, right now, the four of us and people reading this book, and those of you listening at home, or as Jose has said, you can watch a movie. I think it's on Amazon. It is called The Most Beautiful Thing. You can stream it right now. That it also is like, you don't know who's watching you, and you don't know who needs the encouragement or the just your presence, like the way that you live your own life. And there's something that is so empowering about the book, because there's a series of small things that also led to all this transformation, a series of small volunteerisms, a series of small kindnesses. That does not say that we're not also huge things, but the series of small things are, to me, are actually what is so transformative. And I really do think, as Amy said, like, it starts with the mom. Like, she made a change, and that led, I think, for opportunity for, you know, really a family, cousins, uncles.
Yeah, I agree. It is amazing how one person changes everything. And I'm talking now, you know, his mom, from the not so good to completely turning it around. I wasn't diligent like you. There were so many things that struck me. I didn't put Post-its like I usually do, but I don't know if I can find it, but I was struck by when they go to the first race and the reporter, you know, finds him and poses the question. And I think it was at the end of that chapter. Maybe it was the 2K chapter. I don't remember, but poses the question about what were they going to bring to rowing, or what, you know, what makes them so special. And it was so poignant. And so I think it just summarizes everything. And he said, it's how, I'm paraphrasing, and you guys, you can jump in, but basically it's not what we are going to bring to rowing. It's how what rowing has brought to us. And for those who haven't read it, again, go read it. But Amy talked a little bit about it. Kyla talked a little bit about it. Jose, just a rowing team was not just foreign or from Mars, but all of the internal, as Amy alluded to that, all of the internal pushback and roadblocks and not supporting, and not only not supporting, but in the negative, you know, making it racial. This, you know, have you guys on a slave ship, and, you know, the only way out is basketball and football, and you're nothing. And this is, you know, just the fortitude to not only have the internal pushing you down, but the external, right? So there was no safe harbor except for that brotherhood that they built within. That took time. And I think that's another thing that we can talk about, sort of this, you know, this didn't happen overnight. There was a struggle to get this cohesiveness. And what is that? A reflection of life. And, you know, kind of what are the lessons that we learn about life? But I've done a lot of talking, so I'm going to be coffee talk.
But that even that what you just mentioned, but that, you know, that also, you know, the sport that require a lot of physical, you know, learning of everything, you know, dealing with the sport, and they didn't give up. They didn't give up at all. Right? Because, I mean, some never, it was the first time getting in the water. Some did not know how to swim. And so it just, all, like you just said, all those barriers that they encounter, but it was not enough to derail them from what their personal motivation was, right? Because if you start in something that you have no idea, like swimming, or the physical stuff, you know, all the challenges, the physical, just learning the sport, those are barriers that you know, next day after you have some body ache, you start saying, you know what, I'm not going to do it. But that did not happen for them.
And one of the exciting things too is having this experience kind of gives them an eye open into other experiences. So by being part of a crew team and having all of those being in those locations gives them the opportunity to dream even bigger. You know, what is beyond high school for them? Are there other opportunities and things that are available for them to do? What does life look outside of the city blocks in which somebody lives?
Yeah, when that city block is your entire universe, that's your safety, like outside of it, right? Yeah, I echo that.
But also the additional opportunities that they get with Ken, right? Because they will provide entrepreneurship classes, that they will go in other classes that also kind of help him mention in his future and in other friends as well. Because I think it was based on that entrepreneur classes that one of his friends was able to build a business later on, right? So the opportunities, go back to the opportunities that he had for his life and other people just by participating in that sport.
And I think it's the opportunity to dream too, right? Like you learn what the class teaches you, but you also start thinking about, can I, what is my idea? Can I be an entrepreneur? Is that something that's within reach for me? Or a chef or an athlete, or, what are these things? And I think I go back to this idea of encouragement and just, not just, okay, let's talk about the word just. When you're not in the situation, it is so easy to say to somebody, just do X or just have this. Obviously, when you're the person, just is like the most enormous word. It's like the most giant mountain that you could ever cross until you're, on the other side of that. So I was like, just encourage somebody. But again, in this situation, again, speaking for my own self, like knowing that I've interacted with people, that I've just been like, I 100% know that there were some young people on my street that like were just stealing stuff out of our cars all the time. And I was never like, I should give them opportunity. I was like, I hope they move away. Like, do you know what I mean? And so I know that these opportunities come, I think, in all of our lives all the time. And how do we become somebody who's able to see them, to see those opportunities, whether they're small little just like kindnesses in the daily interaction, or these maybe larger scale opportunities. And I think that, to me, like if I try to think of a takeaway again from what we try to do in this series, is also like what did I learn about myself? And usually I learn something bad first, but then that helps me learn something good second, because you have to kind of like admit where you do wrong and you can do a little better. So for me, it was really just knowing, like, I don't necessarily have the patience. I don't necessarily want to have the patience. I sometimes don't want to put myself on anyone's radar screen if I feel vulnerable. And so how do you, what's my call to action in terms of being a little bit more vulnerable and a little bit more kind, recognizing that there is, it's not my job to transform someone's life. That's their job. That's up to them. And we get to do that. And that's beautiful and empowering. But what are ways in which I have this kind of invisible power to help people along?
Well, I believe in the cup of pennies philosophy. Ryan Dow's does this homeless training that's available to the public, has been shared with library staff, and it's talking about investing even the smallest gesture in someone. So, for example, working, in the library. Well, hi, how are you today? And you may not think, well, that has any impact on anybody. You're just saying a greeting, but you could be dealing with somebody who is very lonely and isolated, and you having just that or smiling at somebody could have an impact. So it's almost like every action we do has an impact. And, how can I make one small positive impact? Because once you do that, when you get the cup of pennies keeps going, then you keep building up and then you develop rapport and relationships. So I just think that would be my thing, is trying to develop a cup of pennies.
Yeah. I think it kind of, kind of mirrors what Amy said. Really, just being mindful that, and kind of what Kyla said, being mindful that you have no idea of the impact or influence that you can have just by being present, or by being civil, or by being genuine, or by being nice to someone, nice to a stranger, or just right. And you know, Ken, a remarkable person. Yeah, Ken was, still is, I'm sure, a remarkable person. Just sharing, as Arshay said, time, talent, treasure, right? When he could have, with the money that he had, could have just lived his life. And so takeaways are just remembering that we each are responsible for each other, right? I believe that. And that even if we don't know that other person, we still have a responsibility to humankind, and to be human and to be kind, right? I think that goes a long way. Genuine, not fake, but genuinely kind. And when you feel like you want to explode, maybe recognizing that that's not fair and you don't have that luxury because you don't know where that other person is coming from, and just taking a moment to reflect that, okay, it's okay. In the scheme of thing, whatever that perceived slight was, or whatever disrespect, or whatever that is, like, maybe it's not personal. Maybe that person's having a really, really bad day, and I can rise above it and not pour gasoline on it. Just try to, go through. So I don't know if that made sense.
I mean, it makes sense. It's just difficult sometimes. So sometimes we think, like, what is the benefit of being nice? Because, or you just rather not even deal with somebody or deal with the situation. So it's difficult. I think sometimes it's difficult just to be nice. But I mean, that's something that that we definitely should do as a society, because we shouldn't be individualistic or just thinking about me, but what's the greater good of society, right? And that's another thing that, in a way, sometimes my thing, government has to do a better job to assist or help or provide the opportunities for others, because not every community has a can that can provide the funds, but so we as a community has to be that can for certain group or certain communities, I guess. And it's just, but it's, yeah.
And I wonder, bringing it home then, what is the Ken moment here in Prince George's County? Because, we have great wealth, but we also have great poverty.
Mm-hmm.
And it may, what is our call to action? I mean, I'm not saying we have the answers today, but, again, please read this book and think, what is our Ken moment?
Right. And I think, individually, right? If not me, then who? And so, it really is that. I mean, it's a huge question, but I really do think it's not big. I will tell you a story. Many years ago, I lived in South Bend, Indiana. And I remember once going about my business with my two little kids, and I was grumpy because I'm kind of a grump. And I was grumping along and the kids are crying. I think one was barking like a dog and crawling on the pavement the way that they do. And everything was great. So you can sort of picture my face, right? Like just And I remember somebody just walking towards me. And so for whatever reason, I don't really know why, I just said, hi. Probably because I was trying to like make up for the fact that I was bringing like a dog in human form into the store. But I remember just saying hi to this person, and she was also looking kind of, she's pushing, and I said hi, and I remember her face, like she just lit up. And this was like 20 years ago, and I was like, I literally just said hi to somebody. And that was so powerful when you realize like you literally just have to say hi to someone in the grocery store, and I'm not going to say that I changed her day, or I probably didn't. But for a minute, this person's mood lightened. I have no idea what was going on with her, but I mean, it was just an incredible transformation. Her mood lightened. And if we want to be selfish, do you know who else's mood lightened? Mine. Like, it was really so powerful. So maybe this is the whole symbiotic relationship between kindness to others, is that we do it because it's like, I mean, we can help people, we can transform society, we can, provide hope to others, but it's not altruistic. It's truly not, because we feel something, warmth or hope or connection, that is positive for us. And that, by the way, I don't think that means we shouldn't do it just because we get something out of it, but it's actually like, it's sort of, it's a virtuous cycle, right? I didn't invent that, by the way. Does someone else want to talk about virtuous cycle? Do we all know what that is? Like, you do something and it feels good, and so you keep acting virtuously. No.
I think the key word you mentioned is connection. You think about times, COVID, 2.5 years out of COVID, and how people were, confined, and with the lack of connection. So the connection is it's really important. People want to feel part of something greater, and it's hard. Sometimes I guess I'm too friendly in a way. I'm walking down the street and I'm saying, oh, hey, how you doing? Hi. And then I see some people have their blinders on and they're just walking. And well, if I see someone, I did it once, so I said hi once. And, if I walk by a second time and the person ignores me, I'm kind of not likely to say hello again, but that's just my nature. But, I see so many people with their face in their phones, and all of this, that there's connections, but in very disjointed kind of ways.
I started laughing because I have a mission to say hi to everybody that I pass. So once I was biking with my daughter on like it's some trail that's like 28 miles, 14 miles one way, 14 miles another way, like in Northern Virginia. And I just made it a mission to say hi to every single person. It was like a trolley trail, so it was really crowded. And so I just kept saying, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. And then eventually it was like, good afternoon, because it was like 28 miles. And you have to picture my poor daughter who's just trying to get away from me so she doesn't have to hear me say good morning to every single person that I passed. So I was laughing, Amy, as you said that was something that you like to do. I also like to do that. I will say that in this area, I get about a 50% return rate, but I don't want to give up. I'm going to do it. And unlike you, when I see the people the second time around and they didn't say hi to me the first time, I say, well, I gotta act it out. Hi again.
And I will say that Kyla is not lying, because even in the office she will say good morning to everybody. But it is true sometimes, that's just like Amy said, I think that's what we're losing now, the connection with people, the connection with society, the connection with friends and friends. Because if we go with what you say, Amy, in terms of that we're losing connection, could that be the reason why there is an increase of incidents in the jurisdiction, right? It could be. I mean, it's many reasons, but that could be. I mean, even there's current discussions, even in different business setting, whether employees lose connections, between them. So I think that's a fair kind of assessment in terms of the connection is very important in order to have that peace.
Yeah, just you want to feel part of something, right? Part of a community, part of a family, part like you want to matter.
Yes.
Speaking of mattering, I want to matter. I just wanted to read the poem, the Am I poem that he performed on the spot at a setting. I won't give it away. Read the book. But if you guys don't mind, I just thought it was so well done. And this is the high schooler. I think he was probably a sophomore, maybe a junior. Am I just skin that's brown or black? Am I born from love, lust, or crack? Am I made of gold, silver, or bronze? Am I Sam Cooke, river on the run? Am I a dangerous birdie that's breaking the nest? Am I a local hero without an S on his chest? Am I a stereotype that rap or dance? Am I an inspiring chef without a chance? Am I abandoned, dirt, sewage, and weeds? Am I Africa, sand, honey, and breeze? Am I a fatherless child? Am I alone in a crowd? Am I a beast in heat? Am I an ant that seeks? Am I a sound that fades? Am I wine that ages? Am I a train that derails? Am I a representation of water and wells? Am I a N-word with a trigger? That's my editing, sorry. Am I a fool that snoozes? Am I a bum with songs? Am I a child with howls? Am I a place of grace? Am I a treasure out of darkness? Am I? Shh, I decide. I thought it was brilliant. And it encapsulates, his life, his struggle at that age, and how insightful as a child. Very insightful. Yeah. I'll say something, then I'll shut up. But, he does the epilogue and he tells us about what became a sum. If you ever have a chance to hear us, Arshay Cooper, text us. What happened to Grace? I want to know.
I'll tag him on Twitter.
Okay.
If you want to know. I have to say, when I read that poem, so I love that poem also. And I did not see the ending. I have to say, I did not see the ending coming, because as you're going line by line in the poem, it's powerful in and of itself, right? Like just this, all of these things that are put on or dreamed of, depending, that in and of itself, it was powerful. But then with the ending of like, this is, my journey and I'm going to decide, I thought that was inspired. So I will say, for people watching, we just have like a few minutes left. But if you had any questions about the book or about life, the pursuit of happiness, Office of Human Rights, the library, and this really great book, please type it in the chat.
I see everybody show their book. Should I show by app from the library?
Yeah, we'll all hold up. Yeah,
we're inclusive.
And put up the Libby app. Come on, Jose. By the way, while we're doing this on the Libby app, if you do not have a library card for Prince George's County Memorial Library System, they would love to give you one. And you can have a virtual library card, even if you live far away, like in Hawaii, for instance, because I do know that we have a viewer from Hawaii right now. You can get a virtual library card from the Prince George's County Memorial Library System. Don't be shy.
But I would say, though, if please kind of, in a way, read the book. Don't watch the documentary. I think the documentary, it's good to watch after the book, because you have some more information, and then you can put the documentary together and see it. So just to answer to Ms. Battlebrook, so that when she initially started, I actually read the book and then the documentary.
Sorry,
Yay,
I don't.
you didn't cheat. Yay, so go ahead.
No. This is something I actually had this open earlier, and then I got distracted. I think about waving at people when I was biking, and I'm sorry about that because I did want to talk about, and I know almost the time. I'm going to talk fast. He talks a lot about the period in here about the relationship in his community in Chicago with the police. And there's a part in here that I'm going to just take a moment to read, and because I think it's super relevant, obviously not just in 1990s and not just in Chicago. So I'm starting on page 146 of the soft cover version, if anybody wants to look at it. But the relationship between those who serve and protect in my community is non-existent. I don't know what it is like to be the child of a cop who hopes that their parent makes it home safe after working in a community I am afraid to walk in. I don't want to hate cops because I remember when my grandfather was abusive to my granny and they showed up and removed him when no one else would. I don't know how tough it is to be them. I know what it is like to be me. By the way, Arshay Cooper would like to say that Grace missed out. We are so thrilled that you're here. I'm going to keep reading from your book, but I cannot even believe you're here. And thank you so much. That's amazing. Okay. I don't know how tough it is to be them. I know what it is like to be me. Amidst this chaos on the West Side, I have never sold drugs, punched, shot, or disrespected anyone in any way. I mean, I haven't even broken a plate, and I still had my face pressed down on the police car numerous times. It's not fun when they stick their hands down your pants looking for drugs. Once, when an officer took my backpack and flipped it upside down and made me pick my books up, I had so much in my mind. I wanted to tell the cop I had recited the preamble of the United States Constitution in front of my whole class with pride. One night, I cried myself to sleep because I couldn't remember the Declaration of Independence from my 8th grade history class. I wanted to tell the cop that I put my right hand on my chest, took my hat off, and sang the national anthem at my first baseball game with goosebumps. I pledge allegiance to the flag. I help old ladies cross the street, and I work with kids. I want to stand up for myself, but any wrong move can scare him and get me killed. Then what? What will they say about me? That I'm on the crew team or I live on the West Side? What picture will they show? Me holding an oar or the one with my hat turned backwards? Will I get a flag on my casket or cheap drugstore roses? I am scared too. And it goes on, but it is so wonderful. And I know that we're at time, but I think it's something for us to reflect on where we are right now.
Okay, I have to say that right back to Arshay Cooper. The love. This is just beautiful. Everybody has to read it. And thank you for watching.
Yes. Thank you so much. We're thrilled that you're here. We do have a couple more questions, but we're also at time. So I am going to just say really quickly, there's a question from our viewer in Hawaii who wants to know he can watch the documentary. I am pretty sure it is on Amazon because I checked it out earlier. Jose, is that right? Amazon?
Yes, Amazon. Yes, it's on Prime.
All right, awesome. And so I just want to take a moment and first of all, thank Arshay Cooper for this incredible book. We loved it. We really, really did. It was beautiful and inspiring. So thank you so much for this. For those of you who are watching, the best place that you can support writers and artists, the best way, is by buying their book. So please go to your favorite independent bookstore and buy this book. Or take it out from your favorite library. And as we've already established, if you don't have a favorite library and you're not in Prince George's County, you can still get a virtual library card by going to pgcmls.info. And somebody there or on their website will help you out. Amy, do you have a quick addendum to how people can do that?
They can go onto our website. They can look at virtual cards and apply that way.
Okay, awesome. And so yes, Renee.
I'm sorry, I just want to challenge everyone. Once you read it, maybe we have a follow-up conversation about what our kin moment is in the county.
That is a great idea. And actually, let me just do this. I'm going to put my email. It's going to take me a second. I'm going to put my email in the chat, and I would welcome people to follow up once you've read it, and let's connect. We'll figure out ways.
And maybe we can get Arshay Cooper to do it like a virtual something about what kin moments are and what we can do. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah. that would be awesome. So this is our big takeaway. What Ken moment is in our life, and how can we go forward? Again, I do want to thank Mr. Cooper, and I really want to take a moment again and thank Michelle Hamiel for her friendship, her guidance, and putting together the Elephant We Don't See Diversity dialogue. She was a wonderful person for me to work with the last 2.5 years. I really do miss her, and I loved having new friends tonight. And so thank you so much to Renee Battlebrooks from the Office of Human Rights, Jose Villegas from the Office of Human Rights, and to Amy Jenkins from Prince George's County Memorial Library System for your partnership, for being game, and being here tonight for a great conversation. So good night, everyone. And Arshay, by the way, he says, yep. So, all right. Good night, everybody. You got my email. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.